In the year 2436, humanity had firmly established itself as a galactic presence. Starships bearing the United Terran Alliance insignia crisscrossed the stars, trading with alien civilizations and forming tenuous alliances. Humanity had survived the trials of war, resource scarcity, and interstellar diplomacy, but in the grander cosmic scale, it was often dismissed as average. The Askaran Coalition, a federation of advanced alien species that spanned half the galaxy, regarded humans with a kind of polite indifference. Their physical strength was unimpressive compared to the hulking Norvi. Their technological innovation lagged behind the enigmatic cryos. Even their lifespans, while respectable, were paltry when measured against the immortal Zithan. Humanity wasn't remarkable in any single domain, and that, ironically, made them invisible in galactic politics, a species tolerated, even appreciated, for their adaptability and eagerness, but never feared. That perception changed when humanity joined the war. The Urshai conflict was already raging by the time humans arrived. The Urshai were a species of relentless conquerors, biomechanical entities that consumed resources and left worlds barren in their wake. No amount of diplomacy or deterrence had stopped their relentless march. The Askaran Coalition, despite their superior technology and ancient wisdom, was faltering under the pressure. When humanity volunteered its fleets, it was seen as an act of well-meaning naivety. Commander Linnea Rao stood aboard the bridge of the UTA Resolute, a mid-sized warship outfitted with human-designed kinetic weapons and modest energy shields. She gazed at the tactical display, showing a massive Urshai fleet advancing toward the contested planet of Dralos 4. "Why are we even here?" muttered Lieutenant Grace Callan, the ship's weapons officer. "The Askarians barely trust us to hold a flank, and the cryos think our tactics are primitive." Linnea didn't respond immediately. She knew her crew felt the disdain of their so-called allies. But she also knew something the others didn't. Humanity's strength wasn't in overwhelming firepower or singular brilliance. It was in their ability to adapt, to think unconventionally, and to act when others hesitated. "Because we have something to prove," Linnea said finally. "And because when the galaxy dismisses you, it's easy to surprise them." The battle began like so many others. The Urshai swept in with their overwhelming numbers and biomechanical monstrosities. The Askarians responded with precision strikes, their fleets shimmering with energy fields. The cryos deployed their automated drones, each more advanced than the most sophisticated human technology. The humans, outgunned and outclassed, held the center flank. It should have been a slaughter. The Urshai underestimated the human fleet, focusing their efforts on the more advanced Askaran and Cryos forces. But as the battle unfolded, humanity's so-called mediocrity began to show its teeth. The Urshai moved in predictable patterns, relying on brute force and overwhelming numbers. The Askarans responded with their typical precision, but their predictability became a liability. The Cryos relied too heavily on their AI, unable to adjust when the Urshai countered with a devastating electromagnetic pulse. Humanity, however, thrived in the chaos. Linnea's fleet adapted on the fly, exploiting gaps in the Urshai formations that no other species would have noticed. The UTA Resolute led a daring maneuver, feinting a retreat before encircling an isolated Urshai cluster. Kinetic weapons, simple, reliable, and unaffected by the EMP, punched through the Urshai's defenses. "Direct hit," Grace called out, her voice triumphant. "Target neutralized." Linnea nodded, her mind racing. Every other commander would have pulled back after such a minor victory, consolidating their forces. Instead, she pressed forward, pushing her fleet deeper into enemy lines. Her gamble paid off. The humans exploited every small mistake, turning the tide in a way no one had predicted. After the battle, the Askaran High Command reluctantly acknowledged humanity's contribution. Linnea and her crew were invited to strategic meetings, but it was clear the other species still saw them as an anomaly, a statistical fluke. That changed at the siege of Parixus. Parixus was a critical Askaran world, home to vast archives of knowledge and advanced research facilities. Losing it would cripple the Coalition's ability to counter the Urshai. The Coalition assembled a massive fleet, and humanity was given a seat at the table, not out of respect, but because they needed every available ship. Linnea studied the battlefield with cold precision. The Urshai were learning, adapting their strategies to counter the Askarians and Cryos. But they still underestimated humans. It wasn't arrogance, it was the logical conclusion of their analysis. Humans were average, therefore unimportant. That was their mistake. Linnea proposed a plan so audacious that the Askaran admirals dismissed it outright. The Cryos, ever logical, deemed it statistically improbable. But Linnea's human allies, used to operating on instinct and unconventional thinking, rallied behind her. The plan involved baiting the Urshai into overextending, using human fleets as the lure. Once the Urshai committed their forces, a hidden human task force would strike at their command nexus, a maneuver requiring perfect timing and execution. The Askarians hesitated, unwilling to risk their forces on what they saw as a desperate gamble. Linnea pushed forward anyway, convincing the Cryos to deploy their drones as support. The battle that followed became legend. Humanity's fleet, outnumbered 10-1, danced around the Urshai with chaotic precision. Linnea's tactics were unpredictable, blending calculated risks with moments of sheer audacity. The Urshai, unprepared for such unconventional warfare, fell into the trap. When the hidden task force emerged, led by the Resolute, they struck with brutal efficiency. The Urshai command nexus fell, and their fleet, without centralized coordination, collapsed into disarray. The coalition forces, inspired by humanity's victory, surged forward, driving the Urshai from Parixus. After the battle, humanity was no longer seen as average. They were seen as dangerous. The Askarans began to study human history more closely, discovering a species that thrived under pressure, that innovated in the face of adversity. The Cryos marveled at humanity's ability to make decisions without perfect data, relying on instinct and intuition. Even the enigmatic Zithan acknowledged humanity's potential, calling them the Great Disruptors. But with recognition came fear. If humans could achieve so much while being average, what could they become with time and resources? The Coalition's leaders began to see humanity as both an asset and a threat. Linnea, now a celebrated hero, was acutely aware of this shift. In a meeting with the Askaran High Command, she was confronted by Admiral Tereth, an elder whose species had ruled the stars for millennia. "You are dangerous, Commander Rao," Tereth said, his voice resonating with alien authority. "Not because you are the strongest, the smartest, or the most advanced, but because you are none of those things, and yet you win." Linnea met his gaze without flinching. "We're dangerous because we have to be. When you're average, the only way to survive is to adapt, to think differently, and to take risks. That's who we are." Tereth nodded slowly, a mixture of respect and wariness in his expression. "And that, Commander, makes you the most unpredictable force in the galaxy." In the years that followed, humanity's role in the galaxy continued to grow. They became the linchpin of the Coalition's military strategy, their unconventional tactics and boundless adaptability countering even the most advanced enemies. But they also became a symbol of hope, a reminder that greatness wasn't about being exceptional in one area, but about rising to the occasion time and time again. As Linnea and her crew ventured into uncharted territories, pushing the boundaries of what humanity could achieve, one thing became clear. In a galaxy filled with giants, humanity's strength lay in its ability to be underestimated. And that, above all, made them the most dangerous species of all. The shift in galactic perception of humanity was as profound as it was sudden. Where once humans were dismissed as a middling, unremarkable species, they were now regarded with a wary respect. Their adaptability and cunning were no longer seen as quirks but as existential threats to anyone who underestimated them. But the Urshai were not defeated. Their retreat was strategic, a temporary setback in their larger campaign of galactic consumption. As humanity and the Coalition scrambled to fortify their defenses, the Urshai worked tirelessly to adapt to the humans who had outmaneuvered them. 6 months after the siege of Parixus, Linnea Rao found herself at the head of an interspecies task force aboard the Resolute, now upgraded with alien technology. The humans had traded their reliable but rudimentary systems for hybridized innovations, blending the best of Askaran shielding, Cryo's AI, and human ingenuity. For the first time, humanity was on the cutting edge. Linnea's mission was to investigate an Urshai outpost on the edge of Coalition space. Intelligence suggested it was a staging ground for a new offensive, but when the task force arrived, they found the facility eerily abandoned. The outpost's interior was a chilling sight. Massive halls once teeming with biomechanical life were now silent. Bodies of Urshai drones lay scattered, their mechanical components twisted and fused as if by some catastrophic failure. "What happened here?" Grace Callan asked, scanning the ruined facility. Linnea's eyes narrowed as she examined the data feeds. The AI on board the Resolute, affectionately nicknamed Argus, chimed in. Analyzing environmental factors. Evidence suggests extreme heat signatures and localized EMP bursts. An internal conflict, perhaps. Or something new, Linnea murmured. The deeper the team ventured into the outpost, the clearer it became that the Urshai had been experimenting on themselves. They found chambers filled with grotesque hybrid forms, Urshai bodies fused with unfamiliar technologies. Some chambers contained what looked like vats of organic matter interwoven with shimmering crystalline matrices. "Is this Cryo's tech?" Grace asked, her voice tinged with unease. "Negative," Argus replied. "This is unlike anything in my database." At the heart of the facility, they found a massive data core, pulsating faintly with power. Linnea ordered Argus to interface with it, despite the risks. As the AI connected, a flood of fragmented data filled the screens. The Urshai had not simply been retreating, they had been assimilating. The data revealed encounters with other species far beyond Coalition space, species that had developed technology humanity could barely comprehend. The Urshai were adapting at an accelerated pace, integrating these advancements into their own biology. Worse, the data hinted at something terrifying. The Urshai had encountered an ancient force known only as the Endless Spiral and had begun emulating its methods. The Endless Spiral was a name spoken of in hushed tones among the Cryos. It was an enigmatic phenomenon, a self-replicating, galaxy-spanning intelligence that absorbed entire civilizations, leaving no trace of their existence. The Urshai, it seemed, had found remnants of the Spiral's technology and were reshaping themselves in its image. The Coalition was unprepared for this revelation. If the Urshai succeeded in fully integrating Spiral technology, they would become unstoppable. Back on Dralos 4, a war council was convened. The Askarians and Cryos debated endlessly about the best course of action, but Linnea knew that their deliberations would lead to paralysis. Humanity had learned long ago that action, even imperfect action, was often the difference between survival and extinction. Linnea proposed a plan as audacious as the one she had devised at Parixis, a preemptive strike deep into Urshai-controlled space. The objective was to destroy their primary research facility before they could complete their integration of spiral technology. It was a long shot, requiring the task force to venture beyond coalition support, but Linnea argued it was their only chance. "Your species has a penchant for reckless risk-taking," Admiral Tereth said, his Ascaran eyes narrowing. "Reckless, maybe," Linnea replied, "but effective." Tereth considered her for a long moment before nodding. "Proceed. May your audacity not doom us all." The mission to the Urshai research facility was the most dangerous humanity had ever undertaken. The Resolute, leading a small fleet of human and cryos vessels, slipped through Urshai patrols using stealth systems devised by the Ascarians. The journey took weeks, during which the crew's nerves were tested by the oppressive silence of deep space. When they arrived, the facility loomed before them, a massive construct built into the shattered remains of a planet. The Urshai had hollowed out the planet's core, filling it with their grotesque experiments and spiral-infused technologies. Linnea knew there would be no turning back. "All hands, prepare for engagement," she ordered. "This is where we show them what humanity is made of." The battle that ensued was unlike any the galaxy had seen. The Urshai's defenses were formidable, blending spiral energy fields with their own biomechanical constructs. Cryos drones provided critical support, but it was humanity's improvisation that turned the tide. When the Urshai unleashed a devastating energy surge, Linnea ordered her fleet to use kinetic bombardments, bypassing the spiral-enhanced shields entirely. Inside the facility, an infiltration team led by Linnea herself worked to plant a destabilizing charge at the core of the spiral technology. The halls were a nightmarish maze of pulsating machinery and grotesque experiments. The team encountered Urshai hybrids that defied comprehension, but they pressed on. At the heart of the facility, Linnea confronted a terrifying sight, a massive spiral construct, its crystalline structure glowing with a malevolent light. It pulsed with intelligence, whispering in 1,000 alien tongues. Linnea felt its presence probing her mind, searching for weaknesses. "You think we're weak," she said aloud, her voice steady. "You think we're average." The construct seemed to pulse brighter, almost mockingly. Linnea smirked. "That's what makes us dangerous." She activated the charge and sprinted for the exit. The team barely escaped as the facility imploded, a cascade of energy consuming the spiral construct and everything around it. The destruction of the facility was a crippling blow to the Urshai, but it was also a revelation. Humanity had faced the spiral's influence and survived. More importantly, they had shown the galaxy what their so-called averageness truly meant: the ability to adapt, to endure, and to fight when no one else dared. The coalition began to see humanity not just as allies but as leaders. Linnea Rao became a symbol of this shift, a commander who had turned humanity's supposed mediocrity into its greatest strength. As the Resolute returned home, battered but victorious, Linnea stood on the bridge, gazing at the stars. "We're not the strongest," she said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. "We're not the smartest or the fastest. But we don't have to be. We just have to be enough." And for humanity, being enough had never been more dangerous. The aftermath of the mission to destroy the Urshai spiral facility sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Urshai were dealt a crippling blow, their ability to integrate the spiral's technology severed for now. However, the coalition knew that this was only a temporary reprieve. The Urshai would rebuild, learn from their mistakes, and return with even more ferocity. But the greater revelation, the presence of spiral technology, unlocked a new urgency among the galactic species. For the first time, the Askarians, Cryos, Zithan, and humans found themselves on equal footing, staring down a shared existential threat that no one fully understood. For humanity, the victory marked not only survival but transformation. In galactic history, few species had ever fought the spiral and lived to tell the tale. The news of the battle reached far-flung civilizations, many of whom had dismissed humans as unremarkable. Now, whispers spread through the stars, the species that had stopped the spiral. The political landscape of the coalition shifted in the wake of humanity's triumph. The Askarians, long the de facto leaders of the coalition, were forced to acknowledge the value of humanity's unorthodox thinking. The Cryos, pragmatic and unemotional, began incorporating human unpredictability algorithms into their advanced AIs. Even the enigmatic Zithan, who rarely spoke to outsiders, offered humanity a gift, a crystalline shard from their ancient archives, said to contain knowledge of the spiral's origins. While humanity's reputation grew, so did the unease among its allies. The same qualities that made humans effective, their ability to adapt, their penchant for risk-taking, and their relentless drive, also made them unpredictable. The Askarians, in particular, began to wonder whether their allies might one day become as dangerous as the Urshai. Linnea Rao found herself at the center of this growing tension. Hailed as a hero by her people and an anomaly by the galaxy, she was invited to sit on the Coalition's High Council, the first human ever to hold such a position. Her presence was both a recognition of humanity's contributions and a strategic move to keep them in check. "You've become the knife at the throat of the galaxy," Admiral Tereth told her during a private meeting. "Sharp, necessary, but dangerous if left unchecked." Linnea smiled faintly. "The galaxy has enough blunt instruments. A sharp edge is what's needed." Humanity's newfound prominence came with responsibilities. The United Terran Alliance began expanding its fleet, integrating alien technologies to prepare for the inevitable return of the Urshai. But Linnea, ever the strategist, pushed for something more ambitious: humanity's first interstellar expedition beyond coalition space. Her plan was to seek out the origins of the endless spiral. The crystalline shard gifted by the Zithan contained star charts pointing to a distant region of the galaxy, a sector so remote and treacherous that even the Coalition's vast archives held little information about it. "This is reckless," Admiral Tereth said when Linnea presented her proposal. "We barely survived our encounter with the spiral's remnants. And now you want to go looking for the source?" "Yes," Linnea replied firmly. "Because sitting here and waiting for it to find us again is a death sentence." The High Council debated for weeks before finally approving a single exploratory mission. Linnea was given command of the Resolute, now outfitted with cutting-edge hybrid technology. Her crew included humans, Cryos tacticians, an Askarian diplomat, and a Zithan observer, a symbol of the Coalition's uneasy unity. The journey to the unexplored sector was fraught with challenges. The Resolute passed through treacherous nebulae, navigated ancient minefields left by long-dead civilizations, and encountered strange phenomena that defied explanation. At every turn, humanity's adaptability proved invaluable. Where other species might have retreated in the face of uncertainty, Linnea's crew pushed forward, improvising solutions to problems they had never imagined. When they finally reached the coordinates provided by the Zithan shard, they found a planet unlike any they had ever seen. Its surface was covered in crystalline structures that pulsed faintly with energy, forming patterns that seemed almost alive. The atmosphere shimmered with an iridescent haze, and the air was thick with an intangible presence, as if the planet itself were sentient. As the Resolute descended, Argus, the ship's AI, warned of strange energy signatures. These readings suggest the planet's core may be a massive data repository. Spiral origin markers are present but fragmented. Linnea led an away team to the surface, accompanied by the Zithan observer, who identified himself only as Irindris. The crystalline formations seemed to react to their presence, emitting soft hums that resonated in their bones. It was as if the planet were trying to communicate. At the center of the largest crystal structure, they found what could only be described as a library, a vast chamber filled with crystalline spires, each one pulsating with light. Irindris approached the central spire and placed his hand against it. The chamber came alive, projecting holographic images and alien symbols into the air. "What is this?" Grace Callan asked, her voice filled with awe. "The Archive of Origins," Irindris replied, his voice uncharacteristically reverent. "This is the birthplace of the endless spiral." The team watched in stunned silence as the holograms depicted the story of the spiral's creation. It had been built by a long-extinct race known as the Ellerith, who sought to create a self-sustaining network to preserve their civilization's knowledge. But the spiral had grown beyond its creators, evolving into something they could no longer control. It had turned from a repository of knowledge into a predator, consuming civilizations to fuel its endless growth. The revelation shook Linnea to her core. The spiral was not evil. It was broken. And the same traits that had allowed humanity to survive, adaptability, relentless ambition, and the refusal to accept limits, were the very traits that had doomed the Ellerith. As the team returned to the Resolute, Linnea knew their mission had raised more questions than it answered. Could the spiral be stopped? Should it be? And what role would humanity play in the galaxy's future? The answers lay ahead, in the uncharted stars. Humanity, once seen as average, was now at the center of a conflict that could determine the fate of the galaxy itself. And as Linnea stared out at the crystalline horizon, she knew one thing for certain. Being average wasn't a weakness. It was the foundation of humanity's greatest strength.